Rick Carson, huh?
Who says I pointed a gun?
I do.
Well,
Peace through a gun barrel, love through a lens. Angel and the Badman wasn't just John Wayne's first production credit. It was a gamble that almost bankrupted him, a romance that changed his life, and a film where the leading lady wasn't supposed to be the leading lady at all. The cameras jammed mid-scene, the script was rewritten on horseback, and one kiss, it lasted so long the crew thought something was wrong. These are 20 weird facts about Angel and the Badman. And buried in the chaos, a Quaker dress that cost more than most actors' salaries, and a director who'd never directed a film before. Holster your expectations. This ride goes deeper than you think. Number 1. John Wayne didn't just star in Angel and the Badman, he owned it.
Thomas!
Literally. At 40 years old, Wayne was already a Hollywood titan, but he'd never controlled a production from the top down. Republic Pictures offered him a deal with a catch. Wayne had to put up almost $100,000 of his own money as insurance. If it flopped, he'd lose everything. His house in Encino, his savings, his Hollywood leverage. He mortgaged property bought with his stagecoach money. He borrowed against future earnings from films he hadn't signed yet. He even convinced friends, including John Ford, to invest. Then Wayne did something that made Republic executives nearly pull out. He hired a first-time director named James Edward Grant, a screenwriter with zero experience behind the camera. Herbert Yates, Republic's president, reportedly said, "You're betting your house on a writer who's never called action." Wayne didn't flinch. He later admitted he didn't sleep for weeks, waking at 3 a.m. calculating costs. But this story of a violent man seeking redemption resonated with Wayne on a personal level. Once cameras rolled, there was no turning back. He'd either prove he could produce brilliantly or prove every doubter right. Number 2. James Edward Grant had never directed a film in his life. He was a screenwriter known for tight dialogue. He'd written for Wayne before, crafting lines that sounded natural. But behind the camera? Never. When Wayne offered him the job, Grant laughed. "Duke, I don't know how to direct." Wayne replied, "Neither do half the directors I've worked with." So Grant said yes. When he stepped onto set day one, the crew was openly skeptical. The cinematographer questioned his shots. The assistant director tried to take over. Some crew members bet the production wouldn't last 2 weeks. Republic sent a supervisor expecting to pull the plug, but Grant didn't try to be fancy. No elaborate crane shots or experimental lighting, just clean framing, simple compositions. He trusted the actors and didn't overcomplicate things. He focused on faces, quiet moments, the space between words, and by wrap, Wayne knew he'd made the right call. The supervisor told Yates, "I don't know how that writer did it, but it works." Grant never directed another film after this. He went back to writing. But that one film proved sometimes the best directors simply serve the story and trust their collaborators. Number 3. Gail Russell was Hollywood's rising star.
well, looks like your prayers.
Discovered at 18 working at a Santa Monica soda fountain. A Paramount scout saw her, and within a week she had a contract. She was stunning, with enormous expressive eyes and an ethereal quality. But Russell had a terrible secret. She suffered from crippling stage fright so severe she would shake violently before takes, forget lines, sometimes freeze entirely. Paramount knew and almost dropped her contract, but Republic cast her as Penelope Worth anyway because her vulnerability on screen was magic. Audiences connected with her fragility. What they didn't know was the cost. Russell would vomit in her dressing room from anxiety. She started drinking to calm her nerves just a little, then more. During one crucial scene, Russell's hands trembled so violently the Bible pages made audible rustling sounds. Grant called cut. Wayne saw her eyes filling with tears. He dismissed everyone from set, knelt beside her, and whispered something private. She steadied. They rolled again. She nailed it. But off camera, Russell was drowning. She'd show up with red eyes, apologizing constantly. The film that should have made her a major star became the beginning of a spiral she'd never escape. Within a decade, her career was over. Within 2 decades, she was dead from alcoholism at 36. Angel and the Badman remains her most beautiful performance and a haunting reminder of Hollywood's price. Number 4. The Quaker dress Gail Russell wore wasn't just a costume. Designer Adele Palmer researched extensively, consulting historians, visiting libraries to understand that Quaker dress wasn't about poverty, but about quality and simplicity. She insisted on authentic 1870s materials, hand-woven wool from Pennsylvania, genuine antique lace, buttons carved from actual bone, natural dyes, made entirely by hand over 3 weeks. The invoice was $750, more than most supporting actors' total salaries. Republic executives nearly had heart attacks. Herbert Yates sent an angry memo calling it excessive and unacceptable. He demanded modern fabrics, synthetic lace, plastic buttons, but Wayne refused. He understood authenticity mattered. He wanted Russell to look like a real Quaker woman, not a Hollywood starlet in costume. When Yates resisted, Wayne offered to pay for it himself out of his salary. Yates, shocked, backed down. The dress stayed, and on screen it became iconic. The way the wool caught light, how it moved when Russell walked. It made her look simultaneously vulnerable and strong. After release, Republic was flooded with letters asking where to buy one. Fashion magazines ran features on Quaker chic. Decades later, costume designers still reference that dress as an example of how simplicity executed with genuine care becomes unforgettable. Number 5. The opening scene where Court Evans collapses at the Worth farm? That wasn't acting. John Wayne had been genuinely sick for almost a week. What started as a cold escalated into possible influenza or pneumonia. His fever hit 102 degrees. The studio doctor ordered complete bed rest for 7 days. Wayne refused. They had a schedule, a budget. Every delay cost money he'd borrowed. He couldn't show weakness. So Wayne dosed himself with aspirin and codeine-based cough syrup and showed up anyway. When they shot the opening, Wayne was functioning at maybe 40% capacity. He mounted his horse, rode into frame, and played a man near death while genuinely feeling like he might collapse. The sweat wasn't makeup glycerin. It was fever. The hand tremor wasn't performance, it was weakness. The way he slumped against the door was real. When they called cut, Wayne literally stumbled. The crew caught him before he fell, rushed him to his trailer. His wife, Josephine, showed up demanding he go home. They argued. He refused. "We got the shot," he said through chattering teeth. "I'll rest when we wrap." He rested 15 minutes, then was back working. Crew members recalled Wayne's eyes looked glassy in half those scenes. You can see it if you watch closely, but it worked perfectly. A man beaten down, clinging to life by stubbornness. Wayne never complained, because to him, toughness wasn't performance, it was requirement. Number 6. There's a kiss near the end that nearly got the film restricted. It happens in the farmhouse doorway, backlit by golden sunlight. Quirt and Penelope kiss and hold it. 15 seconds of screen time. In 1947, movie kisses were 3 seconds maximum. The production code had strict rules: brief, chaste, preferably shot from the side. When Grant screened it for test audiences, people started laughing nervously 8 seconds in. Uncomfortable laughter, because this broke every rule. Joseph Breen's censorship office flagged it immediately, demanding it be trimmed. They called it overly passionate and inappropriate for a film about Quakers. Wayne was furious. He argued with Republic's legal team that this was the emotional climax, the moment a gunslinger surrenders to love. It was earned. Grant backed him completely. After weeks of letters, phone calls, and threats of not releasing the film, censors caved with one condition. The kiss could stay if no additional romantic content followed anywhere else. No bedroom scenes, no more embraces, nothing. Wayne agreed instantly. The kiss remained. When the film opened, audiences didn't laugh, they gasped, they cried. That kiss delivered something rare in Westerns. Real emotion, real love unashamed of itself. And it almost didn't survive to reach screens. Number 7. The town set was recycled from at least a dozen other Republic Westerns. Same saloon, general store, sheriff's office. Republic didn't waste money on new sets. The crew would change signs, repaint storefronts, move barrels around. But eagle-eyed fans noticed something in one wide shot. A building with faded letters Harry bleeding through new paint. It had been Harrison's hardware in another film 3 months earlier. The painters didn't fully cover it. The crew didn't have time to reshoot, already behind from Wayne's illness and weather delays. They figured nobody would notice. Most didn't, but some wrote letters to Republic asking if it was intentional. Republic never responded. Yet instead of breaking immersion, it added authenticity. Real frontier towns reused everything constantly. Buildings changed hands. Storefronts changed purposes. Names got painted over carelessly. History layered itself one coat at a time. The past always slightly visible beneath the present. The mistake became a feature. That worn, weathered set that had been shot to death felt more lived in than any pristine new construction ever could. It had accumulated fictional history even from other movies. and somehow that made it feel more real. Number 8. John Wayne fell in love on that set with Gail Russell. It wasn't supposed to happen. Wayne was married to Josephine Sands, his wife of 13 years. They had 4 children. Russell was engaged to actor Guy Madison, but something sparked during those 8 weeks. Conversations between setups, Wayne helping Russell through her anxiety, Russell listening to Wayne's fears about producing. They found understanding in each other. Everyone noticed. The crew whispered. The cinematographer said Wayne's face would soften when he looked at Russell off camera. Grant noticed but stayed quiet. The studio worried about scandal. Josephine heard rumors and confronted Wayne. They argued. He denied it, insisted it was just professional friendship, but the truth was written on his face. And the chemistry on screen wasn't acting. It was real. You can see it in every scene. The way he looks at her, how she touches his arm, the tenderness beyond the script. After filming wrapped, they stayed in contact. Letters, phone calls. They'd meet for coffee in public places. Wayne visited her on other sets. It never became a full public affair, but it was something complicated and impossible. Years later, when Russell's drinking spiraled and her career collapsed, Wayne tried desperately to help. Called producers, offered money, but by then it was too late. Angel and the Badman became a ghost that haunted them both. Number 9. The final shootout almost didn't happen. Actually, it didn't happen, but that wasn't the plan. Grant's script had a classic gunfight written in. Quirt versus Laredo Stevens, slow walk, quick draw, fastest man wins. All storyboarded and scheduled. But as Wayne watched dailies, he started doubting. He'd spent 90 minutes building a character, learning to walk away from violence. Then, in the final minutes, have a traditional shootout? It felt wrong, hollow, like Quirt hadn't changed at all. So 2 nights before shooting the gunfight, Wayne and Grant met in his trailer from 9 p.m. until 3 a.m., rewriting everything. They stripped out the shootout completely, gave Quirt a choice where he doesn't fire, where Marshall McClintock handles Laredo instead, where love and faith win without bloodshed. The crew thought it was insane the next morning. One said, "That's not a Western, that's a drama. Westerns end with gunfights." But Wayne didn't budge. When they filmed the new ending, the tension came from stillness, from Wayne's face as Quirt chooses to holster his gun, from the silence that follows. That quiet ending became one of the most radical moments in 1940s Westerns. Some critics praised it as mature. Others complained it lacked excitement. But audiences sat in silence as credits rolled, processing what they'd seen. Because sometimes the bravest thing a hero can do isn't outdraw his enemy. It's putting the gun down and walking away. That ending defined Wayne's evolution as a storyteller. Number 10. Halfway through production, disaster struck mid-scene. They were shooting crucial dialogue between Wayne and Russell in the farmhouse, maybe the most important emotional scene. Everything was ready. Grant called action. 45 seconds in, the camera seized up completely. Lens frozen. Film magazine jammed, sprockets bent, film tearing, totally unusable. And the backup camera was on another production across town. They couldn't get it for at least 6 hours. Dead in the water. Grant called for lunch, but Wayne had a different idea. He grabbed the still photographer. "You got film in that camera? Start shooting." While the crew repaired the movie camera, Wayne and Russell rehearsed the scene over and over for 3 hours, maybe 15 times, finding new beats, discovering pauses that made dialogue more powerful. Grant took detailed notes, refining his vision. Russell relaxed without the pressure of rolling film, finding nuances in Penelope she hadn't accessed before. Wayne discovered a moment where Quirt nearly breaks, eyes filling with tears before he pushes emotion down. When the camera was finally fixed, they nailed it in one perfect take, 4 minutes continuous. Everyone went completely quiet when Grant called cut. Then the script supervisor started clapping and the entire crew joined in. What could have been a budget-killing disaster became a gift. That scene is one of the most emotionally honest moments in the film. And it only existed because the camera broke. Because sometimes the best performances don't come from preparation. They come from having nothing left to lose. Number 11. Harry Carey Sr.
And I ain't got any use for all that extra water. Why shouldn't I let my neighbors use it?
Playing Marshall Wistful McClintock was dying during production. He had lung cancer, though few on set knew. Carey was 69, a legend of silent westerns and John Ford's early films. Wayne idolized him, wrote the martial role specifically for Carrie, expanding it from a few scenes into a substantial part. But Carrie was weak. Between takes, he'd sit with eyes closed, breathing heavily. His voice came out raspy. Only Wayne and Grant knew the truth. They protected him, scheduling his scenes early when he had the most energy, building in extra breaks, never pushing for multiple takes. Carrie never complained, never asked for special treatment. He showed up every day and delivered lines with weathered dignity. But you can see it if you know what to look for. The weariness in his eyes isn't acting. The way he moves carefully, conserving energy. The tremor in his hands, all real. Angel in the Badman was Harry Carey Sr.'s second-to-last film. He died 14 months after release in September 1947. Wayne cried at the funeral, and years later, Wayne almost named his son Harry instead of Ethan, because the man who played Marshall McClintock taught Wayne something important about grace under pressure, about dignity facing death. Wayne never forgot it. Number 12, the Bible Penelope reads from wasn't a prop. It was Gail Russell's personal Bible given by her grandmother when she was 14. Russell brought it to set thinking it might help her get into character. When Grant saw it during rehearsal, he asked to use it instead of the prop department's generic leather Bible. Russell hesitated, then agreed. The Bible was old, worn, pages yellowed by decades of handling. It looked real on camera in a way the pristine prop never could. But using Russell's personal Bible created an unexpected problem. She became even more emotionally fragile during scenes holding it. The object connected her to her grandmother, to childhood, to a time before Hollywood and anxiety and drinking. Some takes, she'd finish and just sit there holding the Bible, tears streaming, unable to let go. Wayne would quietly wait, never rushing. And the vulnerability you see in Russell's performance, that raw sincerity, part of it came from holding an object that actually meant something. When filming wrapped, Russell asked for the Bible back, but she'd left it in her dressing room that final day. By the time she remembered, the sets were struck, dressing rooms cleared, the Bible vanished. Russell was devastated, called the studio repeatedly, begged them to search, offered money. It was never found. Some crew member probably threw it away, not knowing what it was, just another prop. But to Russell, it was a connection to something pure she'd lost. Losing that Bible felt like losing the last piece of herself that Hollywood hadn't ruined yet. Number 13. The film's most quoted line, "Only a man who carries a gun ever needs one."
Not me, mister. From now on, I'm a farmer.
Wasn't in the original script. Grant had written something more direct and preachy. But during rehearsal, Wayne stopped and said it felt wrong. Too obvious, too much like a sermon. They needed something simpler, something that sounded like wisdom rather than preaching. So Wayne and Grant stood in the farmhouse set for 20 minutes, tossing ideas back and forth. The crew waited. Russell watched. Finally, Grant said, "What if she just tells him why he doesn't need the gun?" Wayne thought for a moment. "What about, only a man who carries a gun ever needs one?" Grant wrote it down, tested how it sounded, nodded. They rolled cameras. Russell delivered the line. It landed perfectly. Simple, elegant, impossible to argue with. That line became the philosophical center of the entire film. Critics quoted it in reviews, audience members repeated it leaving theaters, anti-violence groups used it in campaigns. Over decades, it's been referenced in dozens of other westerns, always as a nod to Angel and the Badman. And it almost didn't exist, because sometimes the best lines aren't written in advance. They're discovered on set when someone says, "That doesn't sound right, let's find something better." Number 14. Republic Pictures didn't want to release Angel and the Badman, at least not widely. After watching the final cut, Herbert Yates told Wayne, "It's too slow, too quiet, not enough action." He wanted to dump it in second-run theaters, make back the budget and move on. Wayne was devastated. He'd risked everything and the studio was ready to bury it. But Yates agreed to one test screening in San Bernardino, a working-class town with audiences who liked traditional westerns. Yates figured it would bomb, giving him proof the film didn't work. The screening was scheduled for a Tuesday night in January 1947. Wayne attended, sitting in the back row, watching his career and financial future play out. For the first 20 minutes, the audience was quiet, too quiet. Wayne started sweating. Then something shifted. People leaned forward. They stopped rustling popcorn bags. During the kiss scene, the entire theater held its breath. When the film ended without a traditional shootout, there was silence. Then applause. Real, genuine applause. People stayed in their seats as credits rolled, something that never happened. The comment cards were overwhelmingly positive. One woman wrote, "Most honest Western I've ever seen." Yates read the card, stunned. He greenlit a wide release. Angel and the Badman opened nationwide in February 1947 and became one of Republic's biggest hits of the year. It made back its budget in the first 2 weeks. Wayne's gamble paid off, but it almost didn't happen. One test screening in San Bernardino saved everything. Number 15. The film's cinematographer Archie Stout had a secret weapon for shooting Gail Russell. He used Rembrandt light, positioning a single key light to create dramatic shadows that made Russell's eyes absolutely luminous. But Stout took it further. He placed a small mirror just below camera frame to reflect light back into Russell's eyes, making them appear even more striking. He'd angled it carefully during close-ups, creating an almost supernatural glow. The crew called it the Russell Special. Other cinematographers on the Republic lot tried to replicate the technique for their own actresses. None could make it work the same way. Stout said it only worked because of Russell's unique eye color and shape. But there was another reason. Stout genuinely cared about Russell. He saw her struggling, saw her anxiety, saw her drinking, and he wanted her to look as beautiful on film as she deserved to feel in life. So he spent extra time on her lighting, adjusting and readjusting until perfect. He'd protect her from harsh overhead lights that aged actresses. In every frame of Angel and the Badman, Russell looks like an actual angel, glowing and ethereal. Stout later said she was the most naturally photogenic actress he ever shot. But the truth is, he made her look that way through skill, patience, and kindness. And Russell never knew. She thought it was just how she looked on camera. She had no idea someone was working that hard to make sure the world saw her the way he did. Number 16. John Wayne's horse in the film, a large chestnut named Banner, was notorious on the Republic lot for being difficult, aggressive, unpredictable, refusing to follow direction. Multiple stuntmen had been thrown or bitten. The Wranglers wanted to replace him, but Wayne refused. He saw something in Banner: stubbornness, pride, independence. So Wayne spent 2 weeks before filming working with the horse personally, early mornings before anyone else arrived. Just him and Banner in the corral. No cameras, no pressure. Wayne brought apples, sugar cubes. He'd brush the horse for an hour at a time, talking quietly. He never forced anything, and slowly, Banner softened. By the time filming started, Banner would only respond to Wayne. He'd ignore the Wranglers, ignore the director, but when Wayne approached, the horse would immediately calm. They developed such a bond that Banner would literally follow Wayne around the set like a dog between takes. The crew was amazed. In the film, you can see the trust between them, the way Banner moves with Wayne, the way the horse's ears are always forward, always attentive. After filming wrapped, Wayne tried to buy Banner from Republic. Yates refused, said the horse was studio property. Wayne offered double the price, triple. Yates wouldn't budge. Banner stayed at Republic, was used in other westerns. But he was never the same. Wrangler said he kept looking for Wayne between takes. Wayne never forgot either. 20 years later, he'd still talk about Banner, about the horse that taught him something about trust, about how sometimes the most difficult creatures just need someone to see past the aggression to the fear underneath. Number 17. The film's poster almost ruined everything. Republic's marketing department created artwork showing Wayne in a gunfight, guns blazing, bodies falling, classic action Western imagery. But it was a complete lie. There was no gunfight in the film. Wayne saw the poster and went ballistic. He stormed into Yates' office, demanding it be pulled. "We made a film about a man who chooses not to shoot," Wayne said. "And you're advertising a shootout that doesn't exist?" Yates argued the poster would sell tickets. Wayne argued it would create angry audiences who felt deceived. They'd expect action and get philosophy. They'd leave disappointed and spread bad word of mouth. The argument escalated. Voices were raised. Yates threatened to shelve the film entirely if Wayne didn't back down. Wayne threatened to buy full-page newspaper ads telling audiences the truth about the false advertising. Finally, a compromise. They'd create new posters showing Wayne and Russell in an embrace, with taglines about "a love that changed a killer." Less exciting, but honest. The new posters were printed and distributed. But in some small towns, the original action posters had already been sent out. And in those towns, audience reactions were mixed. Some felt misled. Others were pleasantly surprised. The poster controversy taught Wayne an important lesson about controlling your film's message from script to marketing. On future productions, he'd have poster approval written into his contracts, because you can make the perfect film, but if you sell it dishonestly, audiences will never forgive you. Number 18. Angel and the Badman influenced an entire generation of westerns that followed.
Not me, mister. From now on, I'm a farmer.
Before 1947, Hollywood westerns were mostly straightforward. Good guys wore white hats, bad guys wore black, shootouts solved problems, but Angel and the Badman suggested something radical. Maybe violence wasn't the answer. Maybe changing was possible. Maybe love could redeem. Fred Zinnemann watched it and later made High Noon, where Gary Cooper's Marshall walks away from violence. George Stevens saw it before making Shane, where Alan Ladd's gunfighter tries to escape his past. Even John Ford, Wayne's mentor, was influenced. Ford's later westerns became more introspective, questioning the mythology of Western violence. The Searchers, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, they all asked questions Angel and the Badman asked first. Critics initially dismissed these films as soft westerns, not enough action, too much talking, but audiences responded. They were tired of endless shootouts. They wanted complexity, moral ambiguity, characters who struggled with choices. And Angel and the Badman opened that door. It proved a Western could be popular without conforming to every genre convention. The film's influence is still visible today in Westerns that challenge rather than celebrate violence. From Unforgiven to True Grit to recent revisionist Westerns, you can trace a direct line back to that moment in 1947 when John Wayne chose to holster his gun instead of drawing it, and changed Westerns forever. Number 19. The final line of the film wasn't in the script either. After Quirt chooses peace over revenge, after Marshall McClintock handles Laredo Stevens, there's a quiet moment between Quirt and Penelope. In Grant's screenplay, they embrace and the film ends. Simple, clean, done. But during the actual shoot, Wayne felt it needed something more. Not a big statement, just a small grace note. They'd already filmed the embrace. Grant was ready to move on. But Wayne asked for one more take. He whispered something to Russell that no one else heard. They rolled, they embraced, and Wayne quietly said, "I think I'll stick around for a while." Russell smiled. Grant called cut, then immediately said, "That's it. That's the ending." It wasn't profound, it wasn't poetry, but it was perfect. A man who'd spent his whole life running, drifting, never staying anywhere, finally finding a reason to stop, finally finding home. That line completed Quirt's journey in a way the scripted ending never did. And it came from Wayne's instinct, from an actor who understood his character so deeply, he knew what needed to be said. They printed that take. It's the ending that made it to theaters, and audiences left with that simple promise echoing in their minds. Because sometimes the best endings aren't dramatic. They're quiet affirmations that change is real, that redemption is possible, that staying is braver than leaving. Number 20. The town church used in several key scenes had developed a reputation among Republic crew members. Strange sounds, cold spots, lights flickering for no reason. Most laughed it off, but some refused to enter alone. During one night shoot, a lamp fell from its rigging and crashed 10 feet from where Wayne and Russell were standing. No explanation. The rig was secure, no wind, it just fell. Another time, doors slammed shut during a take despite being propped open. The sound recordist swore he heard footsteps in the empty balcony. Wayne, skeptical of supernatural nonsense, decided to spend a night alone in the church to prove there was nothing to fear. He brought whiskey and a sleeping bag. At 2 a.m. he left. Wouldn't talk about what happened, just said, "Let's shoot those scenes during the day." Grant asked if he'd seen something. Wayne replied, "I didn't see anything, but I heard enough." They rescheduled all church interiors for daylight hours. The crew worked faster than usual, eager to get out. And if you watch those church scenes closely, there's an unusual tension in the air. Part of it is the actors' performances, but part of it might be genuine unease from a cast and crew who wanted to finish and get out of that building as quickly as possible.